What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your quarantined look at what's going on in pop culture this week. My name is Pat Sheehan with my trusty co-host Dave Marson. Dave, you wash those hands, boy?
That's right. Corona crew in the building. We here every week still. Stay subscribed.
2019, 2020 in the house. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe. I'm wearing my weekend glasses in anticipation for that new album coming out next week. But no, Dave, I've been working from home, man. We're up in that quarantine. We're trying to social distance as much as possible. We're trying to make the long curve.
Flatten the curve,
Flatten
baby.
the curve, man. Do your part. Wash those hands. Stay away from your face. Cough into your elbow. All that good stuff.
I'll admit, I'm very bad at staying away from my face. I always touch my face. It's not going well.
Yeah. The second you start thinking about it, you start realizing you're leaning on your hand or just
all the time.
It's all the time. But Dave, we gotta start with the corona, man, because we talk about what's going on in the culture, and nothing has grabbed the culture more than the corona and squashed it like a bug. Because sports, concerts, gatherings of 50 or more people, even 25 or more people in some places, are now canceled. So pretty much everybody's at home. The usual things aren't out there. We can't go to the movies. You got in a couple movies this week we'll be talking about, but
I had to get them in the last hurrah. Had to probably get the virus to see a few last movies. That's why I'm here for you. See
what
the
a
movies.
Sacrifice. Yeah, if you're not subscribing for Dave getting the virus to bring you that content, I mean, what else can we do at this point?
I made sure no one was near me. I was very distant in the theater, but a guy was coughing. One of them in the back a few times, and I looked back. I noticed other people in there were also looking back, and I was like, "This fucker." It's like 5 people here, and one of you sick. God damn it!
It's so funny because I was at work this morning as we were shutting down to work from home, and I just got some dust in my nose and sneezed, and literally I think everybody in my office just turned and looked at me and was like, "What the fuck?" And I just it's just a sneeze. I feel fine. It's nothing serious.
Witch burner.
Yeah, exactly. I had to get out of there. So how has your self quarantine been going with no sports, no fantasy, no nothing?
Yeah, it's interesting, dude. Obviously all the sports basically worldwide except for fucking Russia, guess who, are done, postponed indefinitely at this point. And that is weird, It's I don't watch a ton of full games, but I do watch a lot. And obviously not having a fantasy team to check for the first time in 15 years, it's just a very weird feeling for me. I instinctively go and click on the fantasy app, I'm wont to do whenever I turn on my phone, because I'm a freaking degenerate when it comes to this shit. And it's oh wait, there's nothing to do. There's nothing new to read. There's no updates. This is a void, Yeah. Speaking of the cancellations too, I mean, what, Coachella, Stagecoach, I think those are the only music festivals so far. Ultra, maybe, Ultra a lot of the festivals are still kind of outside this initial 8-week window, so it's TBD for those. But tough to be too confident about anything. And I know as of the time of recording, Regal Cinemas is shutting down as of Tuesday. I'd imagine AMC and Cinemark will follow suit. So movies are about to be completely done. But they're already done in New York and LA, so that's done. I think the wave for it, last week was when we started seeing big movies getting pulled off the release calendar. And Fast 9, Universal's you know what? How about April 2021? We're not taking any chances with this box office. We're gonna wait a full year for a movie that's done. That's how big these investments are. And obviously Mulan and Quiet Place 2 also pulled. I guess now we're waiting. Black Widow, beginning of May, get the boot. That's kind of the one people are waiting on, because that's actually coming before when Fast 9 was supposed to come. So TBD.
Yeah, man, there's definitely a bit of a domino effect. I think the festival I'm most interested in is Boston Calling, right? Because Boston Calling this year really went all out. They got Rage Against the Machine, Foo Fighters, and Red Hot Chili Peppers, 3 huge headliners. They bumped their ticket prices up to $450, and they're going to be falling right outside of that 8-week window.
End of May.
So if any festival is going to try to stick this out and make this happen, it's got to be them, because this is their play. They went all in to try to bump this fest up, and if they have to cancel this or move it back, it could be disastrous for them. The movies, I think we kind of expected, I didn't expect a whole year, but I understand Fast 9 doesn't want that bag to be touched at all. So, can't blame them. I'm intrigued by these like Universal saying that they're going to be dropping some of their films for
Right.
streaming purposes, right? They announced today that The Hunt, which didn't do so well at the box office, as they kind of fell right into the weekend with people started self-quarantining,
Yep.
social distancing. The Invisible Man, which already has had pretty good box office, I believe over 140 mil at this point.
Success.
And Trolls, which is going to be dropping on April 10th, will all be available for $20 on video on demand. Pretty interesting. I think you've already seen. Have you seen The Hunt? You did see The Hunt. We're talking about
The Hunt. I've seen Emma. I wasn't going to see Trolls anyway, and I'm too much of a coward to see The Invisible Man. Otherwise, I've already seen that. But yeah, I think obviously this is kind of something that some people have wished would happen sooner. How about like Trolls? I think Trolls is sticking to its original release date. I think we all know it won't be in any theaters because there won't be any theaters left to show it. But that's a day and date drop, and $20 I think is actually a really enticing price point. I think people have been throwing this idea out the past few days, but you think back to, remember a few years ago, we talked about it, Sean Parker's The Screening Room. It was like, you have this like box in your house and you pay like $50, whatever it was, for a day one release of a brand new film. And like, 20, if you have your whole family watching for $20, that's a really good deal.
Hell of a deal.
So that's why I don't think that's a realistic price point long term. I think it's important to note that all these movies are out already, and especially Invisible Man is already a success. Now Trolls, $20 from the jump, and The Hunt, obviously Hunt didn't do dick this week. We just had the lowest box office weekend since October of 1998, 55.3 million total. So I'll be interesting to see who else follows suit. As of recording, it's just those few Universal films. It's not a blanket policy either. It's very much, a product of the environment we're in. I don't think this spells any doom for the theatrical model long term or anything like that. That'd be certainly premature to say that much. But yeah, it's kind of wild. And seeing that alongside CinemaCon being canceled, which is all about the theater going experience. It's just crazy times, man. You got to feel for like, especially like independent theaters, smaller theaters, art venues that don't have really any margins to speak of. And not everything is going to open up back up when this is all said and done. We're going to lose a lot of stuff as a result of this, just business across the world, across industry. So it's crazy, it's kind of wild how fast things have changed. And now I feel like the only thing on people's mind is like, when does life get back to normal? Because like back to normal feeling only like a week and a half ago, probably for most people, just feels so foreign,
Yeah. I keep thinking back to this past Wednesday when, like the whole thing went down with Rudy Gobert, and within like the span of an hour, we had the president making a address to the nation, banning travel between some European countries and the United States, and then Tom Hanks was diagnosed as a positive coronavirus carrier, and then you had Rudy Gobert basically shutting down the NBA. With not taking it seriously, and basically the next day everything shut down. Thursday, all major sports leagues postponed their season. The March Madness was postponed, and to just think like we're 4 days removed and how long it feels and how much there is just to consume every day. I feel like the only thing I'm thinking about and talking about right now is the COVID-19. So it's I think this, like a podcast like this, podcasts in general, but also like TV, movies this time, are so needed to provide a sense of normalcy and a reprieve from the stress, because there's a lot of fear out there right now. So I applaud Universal for taking this step. I hope some others do. I wanted to ask you, let's say they were like Fast 9, we're gonna drop it. What's the price point for you?
It's high.
What would you say, like 60?
Yeah, probably. I don't have a great. I don't have. I use a small TV. I would
Mm.
prefer to see it on someone else's really good TV. But yeah, fuck yeah, I would do that shit.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I was
I was
not gonna
just
do that.
excited for the movie in general after that insane trailer, as fast as want to do. So yeah, I was just
Yeah,
that. It's just just vaguely speaking, it's just kind of a bummer to have to wait a whole other year for that. I was excited for that one.
yeah. I'm wondering what Marvel's gonna do with Black Widow. That's kind of the interesting
Right.
one there because it's right there. If that doesn't do well, you're kicking off this next leg of the Marvel universe. I mean, it's not necessarily crucial to the future, but certainly one of the
Right.
some big stars in that.
It was interesting too, just like I think just general observation that 2020 was not expected to be as strong a box office year as 2019, because 2019, as we've said, had, so many anticipated things: Toy Story, Frozen, Star Wars, Endgame, so many, Aladdin, so many big ticket things, Lion King, right? There's so many big ticket things. 2020 already didn't really have that. And it was really up to like your No Time to Dies, your Fast Nines,
Mm-hmm.
to really like drive non-Disney box office in a year where even Disney doesn't have really that many big heavy hitters. And just to see so many, basically all the studios at this point have their plans uprooted. Like, in a sense, maybe we're almost giving a mulligan now. It's like the 2020 box office expected downturn almost is like a moot point now, because the ability to compete went away. But you saw Frozen 2 get moved up several months on Disney Plus, and Hulu moved up Big Time Adolescence by a week, which we'll be getting to. So I will not be surprised if Netflix has something they're probably close to ready. My guess is something like Umbrella Academy season 2 or something. So that's like basically we assume is done, already got shot. If they
Russian
move that
Doll.
up, Russian Doll, sure, yeah, anything like that. So
Russian Doll could be really good though.
I mean, right now, hopefully most music releases still last, although, with the inability to tour, at least in the short term, that might push some things back, tough to say. But any TV that's finished should still release, and that'll probably be the main driver, because like you said, people need that reprieve at a time where they can't go out to the movies, and there's no sports to lose yourself in either. So crazy times, man.
Certainly crazy times. And I'm going to switch it up here a little bit from what we were going, the order we were going to go in, because we're talking about crazy times. Let's talk about Jay Electronica dropping an album from the clouds. I mean, Jay Electronica, his first mixtape, The Act One, Eternal Sunshine, The Pledge, was 2007.
That's 2008?
Right.
Yes,
and
7.
We're getting this 13 years later after 6-7 promised mixtape and album drops that came and passed, even with track listings and collaborations. And it's kind of amazing the timing of all of this, right? Because what people forever were saying, the tweet you sent me, what's going to come first, Jay Electronica album or Knicks?
Fucking
Knicks championship.
Said that like 6 years ago, that tweet.
And it feels a bit like the world is ending right now. I know it's not, but it feels that way with everything shutting down. And here comes the Jay Electronica album right on time.
Yeah. For the uninitiated, the Jay Electronica debut album that just had never came was basically like Dr. Dre's Detox. It was just kind of a running gag, some mythical thing that no one had any faith in existing. And then especially once Dre said Detox was done, he's not going to come. It's like, all right, well, this Jay Electronica. And so whenever he talked, whenever he said any comment at all, whether it's about his own music or not, everyone's like, yeah, bro, like get back in the studio. Like, let's get to work here, And like he's been on The Rock. He's been signed to Rock Nation since 2010. He's like one of their first artists. And he's released nothing but loose singles on The Rock. And
there was like
it's
a
just nuts.
war, right?
That we're actually getting it now, because it's kind of another like sign of the apocalypse, another 4 horsemen act. The Jay Electronica album happened. It's like, the times are ending. Better get it out now. And I think it's important to note too that the reason this was such an anticipated album, is because Jay Electronica was such a tantalizing talent. Exhibit C from 2009, this booming Just Blaze beat, this incredibly dexterous lyricism using multiple languages to both rhyme and make sense content-wise. was perhaps the best rap song of the year, one of the best rap songs of all time. It's really one of those undeniable things. And just the inability for Jay to capitalize on that after signing to Rock Nation was just kind of confounding, dude. And I think his debut rock single, Shiny Suit Theory, is back again on this album, A Written Testimony, which is kind of hilarious because that song is 10 years old. Yep. But it's here, and it's kind of wild, man. Actually, just a side note, Jay Electronica popped up on Mac Miller's second album, Watching Movies, and I think that was one of those first like signs to the larger hip hop community that Mac Miller is like about that rap shit. Like he got Jay Electronica to give him a verse. Like no one really does that. Mm-hmm. And of course, remember him, he was on Coloring Book with Chance and Big Sean and Kendrick Lamar's song Control. He was also on that as well. People kind of forget that one, but yeah, man, it's finally happened. I saw him at Governor's Ball 3 years ago.
How was he?
He was good. He was like 2:00. It was an early set. But he had like people jump up on stage. He walked into the crowd. He was doing his shit a cappella. Really impressive for a guy. He's like, I think he's like 43 now. He's not a young guy or anything, but yeah, he was good. And like, it was cool to see like people in the crowd, like knowing his songs. Cause like, yeah, he's probably only got like, I don't know, maybe like 20 something official songs out coming into this album. But people know his shit because he's just, he's a guy about the bars. And now I think people are kind of getting reacquainted just generally with A Written Testimony. Once the teases started happening last week, and like I saw like Spotify and Apple Music doing it too, I was like, oh wait, okay, it actually is real now. Like that's a sign. Shit. Uh-huh. And then it's just, here we are. I mean, what did you think? Did you know much about his music before? Like I actually listened to Exhibit C a ton this weekend too. Like I started the album twice this week, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I put on Exhibit C again instead before I got into A Written Testimony. Well, yeah. What are your thoughts going in?
I mean, I'm familiar with his verses on like the Chance song you mentioned with Mac Miller, like that, and I've heard Exhibit C. It's a fucking awesome song. I wouldn't say I like know Act 1 like front to back. I'm not like listening to Jay Electronica in my spare time all the time, but I'm aware of the talent, and it almost seems like he came on the scene so quickly and was almost like anointed as like this next like great thing, and that almost like set him back to becoming this artist. Because in some of the interviews that I've been reading around this album, it seems like he felt a lot of pressure to write and make something that's really strong. And I actually almost wonder if obviously if he's giving Mac a verse, and that's I think maybe a propelling force behind this, like he losing someone that was obviously meaningful in the rap community, but he obviously had some connection with, but also having Jay-Z buoy this album so much. I mean, he's on 8 of the 10 songs, or tracks, I should say, because I think the first one, I don't even know if we can really call it a song, more like a intro track. And Jay goes really hard on this. Jay-Z goes really hard on this album, I should say. And Jay Electronica is great, but it almost felt like he needed Jay to take a little bit of that pressure off him and to say like, we're gonna get you through this first one. Let's get that monkey off your back and give him a shot to take some of that pressure away. Because he was like labeled the next Nas from everything I can recall. Like people are saying, he's that good lyrically.
Yeah, no, that's right. And yeah, there's a lot of Jay-Z on this, and I think I would actually say there's probably too much. I would have preferred more Jay Electronica verses. I think that's actually an astute point. They just kind of had their theme and they just wanted to finish it and finally execute on it. But yeah, I mean, I hope Jay like Electronica can become a little more active, at least as much as he can, just because we still haven't heard a whole lot from him. But I think maybe that's okay too, because if he's going to be a less is more guy, I think he's certainly making really thoughtful music and even getting really inspired performances from Jay-Z. Like I think Jay-Z's way better on this than he was on like the Carter's album he did with Beyonce.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So yeah, maybe that balance a little off, but I mean, Jay-Z has never been this involved with a Rock Nation album that wasn't his own. So I think that still counts for something.
Definitely. And, I agree. I think there is maybe a little bit too much Jay-Z. I think he actually outshines Jay Electronica on his own album. I mean, even the first real like rapped verse on this, because like we said, the intro track is just more spoken word. is Jay-Z coming in hot on the second track, um, Ghost of Soulja Slim, which is a great song. And the thing is, there's not a lot of songs on here that I would say I would want to skip through or I wouldn't listen back through. I think they're really well made. They sound awesome. I love the choices that they made sonically in this. I think they really infused some like very cool samples and like an old school vibe to this that while still also really spitting some really smart bars. And like I said, I think Jay, especially on like Flux Capacitor, just goes so hard and it's just like ethering the whole thing. And what I think there's one or two songs, Fruits of the Spirit, which is just Jay Electronica. I thought that's a great too. And even though it's quick, he comes with it. So really strong showing. I just want a little bit more, but I think that's kind of like the story of his career, right? Is everybody wants a little bit more from him, and he's just gonna piecemeal it to you.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's important that this is not a flop. This is good, and I think we all thought. I don't think there was any real expectation that Jay Electronica would ever deliver anything bad, but it's still, I guess, reassuring to see him, deliver something that is, quite conceptual. He's always been someone to really talk about religion in interesting ways, kind of openly, candidly, and using kind of like soulful. I don't want to say gospel because that makes you think of like Kanye right now, but like I don't know, like religious samples, like the tone of voice, the vibe you get is just kind of like very almost like sermon-y. And that being said, though, I think the most memorable moment on the album is what was the most talked about on social media. It's on Flux Capacitor, but that's of course Jay-Z's performance when he's talking about criticism he got for working with the NFL, and also then kind of turning that into like, don't chase clout by posting pictures with me if I die, and like some really introspective shit from Jay-Z, which is again great to hear him so lucid and thoughtful, given again how long he's been in the game. But yeah, I think Jay Electronica for me, I think he produced a lot of this too, and I think I didn't love the overall production all the time, but it was always congruous with like what he was going for on the album, so I still respect it. And there are actually a few moments I think where Jay-Z he was almost like Eminemming with his delivery, like he was really like spitting out those verses fast. And then a few times I was like, we can slow down here, it's okay. But overall, I dug it. I think Flux Capacitor is my favorite song, but I also like the Never Ending Story as well.
Yeah, Never Ending Story is a cool switch up on it, where they go back and forth. A lot of the Dream on here. Travis Scott also on one of the tracks, but
that was really kind of weird to me. Not sure why Travis was there.
Yeah, definitely strange, but still, like, if you can get Travis Scott on the track at this point, he's incredibly high, I guess.
One of his better features in a while, though, so that's good.
Sure. Yeah, I thought there were there's a lot to like from this, but again, leave me wanting more Jay Electronica. Hopefully we get an album that's a little bit more him next time. But we'll be adding Flux Capacitor to our Nowstalgia Best of 2020. Jack Harlow, this up-and-coming whippersnapper. We go from a 43-year-old Jay Electronica who's releasing his debut album to Jack Harlow, who's dropped like 6 EPs, like 8 EPs, something like that. One every year since 2014. And seems to be growing in stature over the last couple of years. Last year he dropped Confetti, which got some commercial attention, and then it seems like this most recent drop is probably going to get a little bit more with Sweet Action. Dropped on his 22nd birthday. Dave, how are you feeling about Jack Harlow's latest EP?
Yeah. I think so Jack Harlow's from Louisville, Kentucky. And on Confetti last year, he has a feature from Bryson Tiller, also of Louisville. So I think that was an important moment for him to get the cosign, and also having Bryson show up in the music video. Getting the current star of the city to kind of co-sign you like that, I think was an important moment for him. But I mean, what really got us here, the reason we're talking about Jack Harlow, he was not someone I was super up on. That would of course be the debut single off Sweet Action, What's Poppin', which came out on January 21st. and that, got a Cole Bennett music video, and that song just kind of took off and blew up, and it's like 50 something million streams right now. It's 61 million streams on Spotify right now. It's on the Billboard chart. So that kind of is one of those career changing singles, and I think he's been signed to Generation Now, which of course is DJ Drama's label from Atlantic that Uzi has had issues with recently. Seems to be all good right now though. He's been grinding, but he finally got that pop with What's Poppin', and now he's on everyone's radar. And I don't think there's anything as good as What's Poppin' on here. What's Poppin', which is already on our Nowstalgia Best 2020 Spotify playlist. Follow that. That's one of those like just rapping ass bars songs where like the flow is just so infectious and it's a great beat, and it's just a simple banger, not much to it, but it's a really fun song. You understand why it's getting streamed the hell right now. And on Sweet Action, I was actually surprised to hear Jack do some other sounds than What's Poppin', and I think that I guess foresight to diversify his career even more leaves me confident that we'll be hearing a lot from him in the future, because songs like Too Stylish and I Want to See Some Ass, those are kind of like more like Russ vibe songs, definitely not what you get from What's Poppin'. So that was unexpected. This is a 15-minute EP, mixtape, whatever. It's really just capitalizing off the success of What's Poppin'. But I'm certainly intrigued moving forward. What did you think?
I think the album or the EP is almost hurt by how much better What's Poppin' is from anything else that's on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Because after that, I was like ready to go, and it just kind of felt like, okay, nothing else really grabbed me as much. But I did find myself kind of bobbing along. It was a nice listen. I don't think anything here is going to skyrocket him further than What's Poppin', but ride that wave, man. And like you said, he's diversifying sound a little bit. I thought Hey Big Head actually was probably one of my favorite ones, just kind of a lower key, more just like vibe to it. It seemed like he really was trying to play with melody a lot and try to switch that up throughout. So I give him some credit, like you said, for trying to try some different things and see what else he can thrive at or maybe work on. Obviously still very young, only 22. He's put out a lot of things, and to see him continue to grow, to finally have like a huge hit like that, I think there's a lot of potential. Just got to kind of keep grinding on it. The Louisville rap scene, I'm very intrigued by, because you think about like there's New York, there's West Coast, there's Atlanta, even Texas, and we've been talking more and more
Houston.
about Florida recently, but Louisville is not a place we talk much about the rap scene, I guess. So interesting to see what the influence is going to be like out of there. Bryson Tiller is not somebody I think much about, so maybe Jack Harlow can be the real godfather of Louisville.
Yeah,
you don't know anyone else from it.
Nope, those are really the only two of any consequence, and Bryson Tiller is more of a an R&B artist first anyway. So I think Jack Harlow is a likely candidate for XXL this year. Probably talking about that in the coming weeks. But not a lot of people make something as high as What's Poppin'. So kudos for that, man. Ride that wave, like you said.
Absolutely. Also, you mentioned this before, Dave. Riding that Corona wave was Hulu, with Big Time Adolescence dropping a week early, because they wanted people to watch this. And people had nothing else to watch this weekend, and this dropped at Sundance this past year, and Hulu scooped it up. Yeah, starring Pete Davidson.
Sundance last year, 2019.
Last year, 2019.
Yeah. And we've been waiting over a year. That's about as long as it gets for a Sundance for release. So it's been a minute. Hulu didn't have it until like last fall either. It's been a while.
And we've been talking quite a bit about Pete Davidson recently, because we just talked about a stand-up special. Check out that breakout. Dave, was this worth the wait for you? Because this has pretty good reviews online. 88% Rotten Tomatoes, fairly positive. 6.9 Metacritic, I believe. Was this worth the wait for you, though?
I liked it a lot. Yeah, I think it was playing really into Pete's strengths. We talked a lot about it on Live from New York, about Pete's, I guess, lack of really refinement as a stand-up comic, and then kind of talked more about his overall personality and the SNL news he had been making waves with recently. And, that special was directed by the director of Big Time Adolescence, Jason, was it Olshay? Or Orley? Fuck, can't read my notes.
Orley. Jason Orley.
Yeah, this is his feature debut. I think it's pretty strong debut. It's a solid front to back coming of age story. And I think Pete it wasn't like stunt cast in this. It's like, oh, Pete Davidson's hot, let's get him in a movie. It seemed like he was kind of well suited for this role, as playing into the persona he kind of has, as kind of like that like dirt baggy bro, and a lot buoyed with Griffin Gluck, who we remember from American Vandal, among other things. I found it funny, and that's obviously what we want from Pete at the end of the day. But again, solid coming of age story. I guess plotting wise, nothing is like super out of this world. It's like, I guess it's a predictable narrative arc, but I enjoy it front to back. It's only 90 minutes, but the rest of the cast is enjoyable too. You have Machine Gun Kelly just kind of chilling, saying some jokes. Sydney Sweeney, of course, who we know from Euphoria, and Thomas Barbuska, who I feel like people have known a long time since he was on The League. And
but also Project X, right?
No, he's not.
No, isn't he the friend?
No, he's not Project X. You're thinking of funny. The guy you're thinking of from Project X was in Mindhunter as one of the serial killers. I forget his name.
Oh, you're right. He's too old. This guy, this kid reminded me just of that guy.
No, I 100% agree. Yeah, and John Cryer is the dad. Haven't seen much of him. And shout out John Cryer retweeting me on Twitter. Didn't even add him.
He's just searching for Big Time Adolescence, like retweet. I thought this was pretty good, and where I actually probably what the choice I like the most is kind of what I expected to be happening with this plot. And I guess if you don't want the plot spoiled too much, check it out, or fast forward a little bit. Was I expected there to be that moment where they both kind of go their separate ways, but they come back together, and Pete's really made his choices, and he's start finally improving his life and taking things seriously, and so is Mo, and they have a conversation. It seems like it's going that way, and then nope, you find out that the character Pete Davidson plays, Zeke, is still a fuck up and just a loser.
Yep. And I didn't write it yet.
Really
it's in my head.
Right. Yep. It's all maybes and what ifs, and I think that last shot of Mo kind of driving away, and you just see Zeke kind of fading in the background is an apt ending, but also one that I didn't expect, because I kind of expected just a happy overall ending. And overall, I thought the performances were pretty good. I think there's enough entertaining stuff in here. Especially, I really liked the chemistry between Una Lawrence and Griffin Gluck. I thought Una Lawrence was really great as I forgot her name, the love interest.
I forgot her name too.
But overall, really solid. And I wasn't expecting much from this, but I was pleasantly surprised. Did you have any moments or anything that really stood out for you throughout?
It's kind of funny. Like early on, the movie kind of, it shows you that it's, I think, a little more hip to how things work, and understands how relationships are these days, where Zeke has his Mo's sister, I believe it was, breaks up with him early on in the movie, and he's like, and Zeke's like, what? I just liked her picture. I didn't fuck her. What? She lost a lot of weight, and I threw her a like. What's the big deal, or whatever he said. I was like, that's hilarious. That's actually super super accurate, by the way. That's funny. I also laughed at the comment Zeke gives to Mo early on about how you have to masturbate before having sex so you don't finish fast. And I'm like, yep, every guy's been told that. That's also spot on. And then lastly, the scene where they're playing 40 hands, taping 40s to your hands. I was like, hell yeah. but also inaccurate. The thing about having to pee and like not being able to pull your pants down is fake. That's not a real problem unless you take like an hour to drink your 40s. So I just want to say, if someone experienced that is an inaccurate scene, but I still laughed the whole time.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take a long time, or if you're drinking out of both, if you're not smart and drinking just one first and the other,
Sure.
you're certainly gonna find yourself in that sort of situation. But anyone who's ever done it, I think, knows that it's not how you do it. We're cool. We drink, so
That's
there
right.
you go.
Especially now,
but
nothing else to do.
I really thought the scene where Mo comes home high and they like confront him about it. I thought that was pretty funny. I also just something about the scenes I remember most are really the ones between Mo and the girl he's interested in at the parties, because I feel like they felt so real and like so awkward, and like the intimidation of like the older kids in those situations just felt so accurate. So had some flashbacks to my high school experience, because I was not a cool kid in high school like I am now with all my drinking skills. Oh, Dave, I'm shocked. That's two like nerds talking on a podcast, not the cool kids at their high school. It's interesting because I think you made a really good point talking about Pete, and where we left off talking after his stand-up was like, what do we want from him moving forward? And this felt like almost kind of like a perfect lane for him, right? Where it really played to his strengths and who he is. But I just don't know how many of these sort of roles are going to be out there for him, or how much he can do this until it becomes old.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, with this role, he gets to really play into his comedic timing well, I think, and in a sense does kind of juggle a bit of levity versus some heavier moments. The movie never gets super dark, but you can tell Pete's kind of varying it up as the character does various things, so yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like there are people that effectively do the same thing a lot in comedy. Probably one of the greatest, of course, like Will Ferrell, for example, does a lot of the same stuff all the time. Obviously, not comparing those two on a skill or a talent level, but I think there's a lane as long as Pete stays hot. And, again, he's a tabloid fixture. I think he's going to stay hot for a while. So, I think just kind of the bookend this. Big Time Adolescence was supposed to release last weekend in a few theaters. I think it did, but, like big cities only. And then it was going to come out this Friday. 95% of people, more than that probably, will associate this as a streaming movie, a Hulu film. And I'd say Big Time Adolescence is definitely towards the top of people's lists because, I think people, we have a lower expectation for things we watch on streaming and a little more of a tolerance for mediocrity. So I think Big Time Adolescence being, I think, really good at what it's trying to do, this will probably impress a lot of people just because they're, as you were saying too, you were not expecting anything, I think, as polished as this. And again, it's a Sundance movie, so that I guess that should be expected a little bit. But yeah, I was very happy with it. So I'm hoping to see more of Pete in the movies because, again, as we said before, his SNL days are definitely numbered.
For sure. Dave, you made it out to some movies. You braved the elements, the corona, to bring us The Hunt and First Cow. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Oh, let's do The Hunt first.
The most controversial movie of 2019 that didn't actually come out.
That's right. It was supposed to come out.
How controversial is this, Dave?
That's the thing. Like, it was supposed to come out in August, and then right-wing media got hold of the general plot and thus thought this was Hollywood bashing normal working-class people as Hollywood's agendas want to do. And you can imagine how that went. You can look up what happened. Even our president commented on it and how it was unfairly portraying yada yada, right? And thus Universal pulled it from the calendar. We even talked about that happening and how that was stupid. And
well, and there was also, it was around the El Paso shooting too, right?
That's true. It was not well timed with the Dayton shooting too. There were several shootings at that time, so I think people were like, a movie about people willingly killing other people, maybe not the best right now. So I understand that sentiment. But I was happy that Universal and Blumhouse were like, all right, fuck it, we'll put this back out and market it. And I think in a normal box office environment, this would have done a lot better. It did like 5.3 million. But again, this was the worst box office weekend since '98. So not really going to blame them. And it also, as a Blumhouse movie, was super cheap. It was like under 20 million bucks. So not really much of a loss anyway. But yeah, is it controversial? Does it warrant this much ire from people and thus hand wringing about, no, release The Hunt, you must release it? No. Simple answer, no. It's very over the top about anything it's handling politically. I think the basic concept is that rich, wealthy neoliberals, elites, kidnap right-wing people from America and put them in this area and then kill them. And that's the premise. Pretty over the top, right? And from the jump, these neolibs, these left wingers, are portrayed as the bad guys because they're the evil people in the story, which is funny because the controversy was saying that this was like some liberal fantasy and like they were happy to see this when literally it's making the left wing people look bad. But again, it's so over the top and messy with its observation. I don't think it's that effective of a satire because it's just really playing with basic archetypes from both sides, as you can imagine, left and right people. So it's not good for that. But I think what it is good for, it's kind of like an old school like exploitation film. Like Betty Gilpin is the lead, and as one people captured, and as you can imagine, she survives longer than everyone else and gets revenge on her kidnappers. And she's kind of just kicking ass, and it's really fun. I think it's quite violent, but the violence looks really good despite the modest budget. And I was pretty entertained the whole time, and I did enjoy it. So I think if you don't look for it for the satire, because it's not really deep or certainly doesn't have anything to say beyond like, doesn't it suck how partisan everything is? Isn't this ridiculous? Yeah, there's nothing profound to find there. But if you just want to watch the action, I thought it ripped. And again, Universal is releasing this week alongside their other films for $20 rental. I think it's worth it if you're looking for something like that. Because again, I enjoyed the whole time. There's a lot of casting of other famous people: Emma Roberts, Ike Barinholtz, Glenn Howerton, Hilary Swank. But
I like all those people.
Yeah, me too. But Betty Gilpin.
Hilary Swank. Damn.
Yep, that's right. Oscar winner.
I haven't heard from her in a while.
No, we haven't. But Gilpin gets by far the most screen time, and she's I think really compelling. That's just kind of a badass who is actually almost more thoughtful than you'd think. And it's funny. I think a lot of people. I saw this circle around when you finish the movie, you might think to yourself, I wonder who Betty Gilpin will vote for this year. Her character, and it's not as immediately clear, despite her being looped in with all the right wing people she's been associated with. So yeah, I think it's good, but good for just its simple action and less so for its grand proclamations about our political climate.
Yo, and good for Betty Gilpin, right? She's fantastic in Glow. Definitely, I think we were wondering when she's going to start getting more and more opportunities, and I'm glad that she got this chance, and it's gotten a lot of buzz, gotten her name out there. I hope she gets more opportunities. I'll probably actually rent this and watch it this weekend coming up. So looking forward to that. Dave, you also saw First Cow. I believe this is an A24 film, right?
That's correct. Yes, First Cow premiered at Telluride. This is the latest film, Telluride last year, latest film from Kelly Reichardt, who's the noted minimalist indie film directing legend, I guess you could say. Someone who cleans up with the Spirit Awards from time to time. I actually haven't seen any of Kelly Reichardt's movies, but I feel like people talk about her all the time in film circles. But that's certainly a hole for me with seeing her films. Her last movie came out in 2016, Certain Women. And this film takes place in the 1800s sometime in the Oregon Territory, in the obviously future state of Oregon. And it's at the height of the beaver trade. So that's kind of like your focus of when it's taking place.
Hell yeah.
And from what I've gathered, a lot of her recent movies take place in the Pacific Northwest, though most are not period films like this. But yeah, and it follows John Magro, who plays this character named Cookie Figowitz. Cookie is a cook who's with some beaver trappers traveling with them, and he's a more reserved, more I guess more thoughtful guy than the rugged mountain men that you'd expect you need to be to survive out in the Western Territory, right?
Mm.
And he comes across early on with King Lu, a Chinese man played by Orion Lee, and King Lu's like been on the run from other people, and like Cookie shows him some kindness, and they end up meeting back up at like a local fort, and they kind of just strike up a friendship over their, I guess they're the kindness Cookie showed King Lu early on. In that friendship, they become like roommates at like this little shack King Lu has, and then from there they kind of just get an idea. Really, it's King Lu. King Lu's very enterprising, thoughtful guy, whereas again Cookie is just more keeps to himself. And the title of the film, First Cow, is referring to this gorgeous cow. It's like this nice brown coat. It's the first cow in the territory. It's like like it was like shipped in, and it's was shipped in by like the chief of the fort, who's played by Toby Jones, who's probably the most famous actor in the movie. It's really a bunch of unknowns otherwise. And it's the first cow because Toby Jones, he wanted some milk for his tea. He's a Englishman, and Cookie and King Lu get this great idea to steal milk from this cow at night and bake, because Cookie is a good cook. And the movie is very that's the most I'll say about the plot, but the movie is very methodical and slow to develop in the early goings, and I guess that's nothing I know for sure, but from what I gathered, that's a hallmark of the way Kelly Reichardt makes her movies. It's a very thoughtful, minimalist thing, and it was very cerebral, very very green. Again, we're in the deep forest, and we're at this fort, and that's set up. But then once you kind of understand, once everything comes into focus, once you get what the first cow means, once Cookie and King Lu meet up, and you realize they're going to start hawking baked goods to people in the fort that have been eating like dog shit for who knows how long, like the movie clicks, and I just have the biggest smile on my face, and I was like, this fucking rules, watching them get more and more money because everyone can't get enough of these oily cakes they're baking. And it was just really cool. And I think it's important to note too, the very first scene of the movie, Ali Shawkat of Arrested Development fame is walking on the beach with her dog, and we assume later is present day Oregon, and her dog stumbles across two skeletons kind of buried just beneath the surface, and you have that in your mind the whole time. And then as you watch the movie, that what that means comes into focus. And I thought it was a really great movie about friendship, I guess, the struggle, the brief struggle that can be being a small business owner. And there's I guess there's a little capitalist comment there with stealing from the rich chief, the rich fort chief to benefit your poor ass. I guess you could see that there. But yeah, methodical movie, looks great, and the acting is awesome. And Cookie and King Lu, they have great chemistry. So I think this, for me,
that cow, man, you couldn't stop talking about how hot that cow was.
Cow's fucking gorgeous, dude.
No, I'm kidding. It sounds like a great concept for film, something different, which I love that A24 backs these filmmakers and these movies. I definitely want to check it out. I wish they would put it out on streaming. Like, out of all the movies we've been talking about, this is one of the ones that and Portrait of a Lady on Fire, like, if they were on streaming right now, buy it in a second.
Sure.
So
yeah. A24 said that they'll re-release First Cow when that time comes. So that's great that they're standing by the film, and because A24 never expands too much with their films, but given what's happened with coronavirus, it was basically being sent to die from a box office point of view. So that's good that they're going to reinvest in it a little bit when that time comes.
For sure.
But yeah, I right now this is my number one movie of the year.
Wow.
I've seen like, I don't know, 16, 17 movies this year. This is my clear favorite so far. So I think, who knows how long it'll be, but a few months from now, it'll be easier for everyone to see this again. And I would strongly urge people to do that.
I definitely can't wait to check it out. And maybe if I see it, we'll talk a little bit more about it. Why don't we talk about some things we both did watch, though? And that's some HBO television. We're starting with The New Pope, Paolo Sorrentino's, I guess we'll say, second installment of the Lenny Bernardo story.
Yeah.
Not quite it's not listed as a season 2, but
certainly a sequel, though.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be season 2 of The Young Pope, and they kind of switched it up. And if anyone that's been following the podcast knows that we adored The Young Pope, thought it was thoughtful and masterfully made and weird and visually stunning. Really couldn't say enough good things about it. We were very excited for The New Pope. We didn't get to talk about the drop. Kind of fell on like a weird date, being out on Mondays for us to really review it at a good time. But kind of watching it through, I don't think it met the lofty standards of The Young Pope, if only because I think what I find most alluring and captivating about this show is when Jude Law is being Lenny Bernardo and kind of just stealing every single frame he's in. And I found some of the stuff with Malkovich to be a bit of a slog at times, and a bit redundant also, up until the last couple episodes. But when this show clicks, there really is nothing like it on television, in my opinion. And especially the last 3 episodes of this season, I thought were just masterful. How did you feel about The New Pope, the sequel?
Yeah, I agree. It from the jump, it really lives up to its name because it's not about Lenny. I mean, Lenny's present. Pius 13th is present, but he's in a coma literally for 6 of the episodes. I think that's longer than most people expected from the 9-episode season. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say. That being said, I loved the pilot, how they set up with a different new pope, Francis the Second, or whatever his name was, and how they play for laughs a pope actually practicing what the Catholics purport to preach in terms of poverty and charity and all that stuff. And then seeing just Foyello and everyone being like, fuck that. Let's get this fucker out of here. And then the show really quickly transitions to this whole new thing where, as you said, John Malkovich, the actual new pope, titular new pope, is the focus, Brannick's. And I did not expect that character to have, there's a lot of melancholy going on with him. And I think they play that character really thoughtfully throughout the season, because there's a lot of buildup going on. There's theme, like the motif with the millipede, and I liked that characterization, and I thought it was done well. But as you said, Jude Law as Pius is truly a scene stealer. Like, once Pius wakes up, you just can't look away, because the performance is just so tantalizing. And already having history with Pius from the first season, you just kind of love it. And I really hope Jude Law actually gets Emmy attention for this time. This would be supporting, limited series supporting, because he really is tremendous as Lenny. So, and you believe, I think it's important, you believe why he is so popular in the story, right? I really love the introduction of him having stands, the people with the sweatshirts.
Yep.
I thought that was a great touch. And as far as the side plots, I kind of loved all the nun stuff with the nuns going on strike. And I think a big part of that is that from the jump, the title sequence, the intro, is them kind of raving.
Yeah.
At night in front of the lit up cross. That was amazing. And the young pope had the same intro the whole time, with Lenny, of course, walking through the hallway playing the Devlin cover of All on the Watchtower. This season, what we actually see in the visual changes episode to episode. And when Pius wakes up, we get a new twist on the All on the Watchtower. In terms of title sequencing, it's some of the best shit I can remember in who knows how long. That was incredible. And then we also get just kind of funny, almost deleted scenes for the credits. You actually watch the whole credits, because the credits are like playing stuff. In general, the music used in the show are awesome.
Yeah. The you talked about just the credit sequences. The one I liked the most actually was when like the mother of the nuns there, the midget, was when you see her just kind of like by herself, like listening to it with tapping her foot, and then like cuts away and it cuts back and she's like going nuts. I loved that. Yeah, you know, I think so. I've never been a huge Malkovich fan. I guess I'll
interesting.
throw that out there. I think I can understand the talent. I think just something about his like affect and personality never
he's
really,
neurotic.
Captured me. Obviously he's great in Rounders and things like that. He has one of the best all-time SNL like holiday skits where he's like reading the Night Before Christmas to all the kids and kind of like breaking it down like seriously. It's very funny.
Sure.
But I know he never really caught me. And then I think the way he plays John Paul III in this. And the way he does that is just so well done and like you said, thoughtful. And the way that they use the characters in this show to say something about the church, but also just about kind of like humanity in general. Like, you know, Brannick being this person who's kind of haunted by his addiction and how that played into the death of really like one of the only people he's ever like felt loved by and connected to in his life, and how that isolated him from the only other people he ever really wanted to feel connected to.
Right.
And then how Malkovich and Cecil DeFrance play off each other and their budding relationship throughout, and kind of like the barriers of the role, and the choices you make in your life and what you're trying to what you really want to get out of your life. You know, it kind of becomes like the theme of it for Brannick in the end.
Yeah.
He obviously wants to just feel accepted and seen and connected, whereas Lenny is this person who wants to drive fanaticism, drive belief, drive the message of God and the church, of like these it is powerful, and there can be power in believing and coming together. And I also really loved that as like a tie-in to end the season, like the interplay of like what is the line between being like this like saint, the savior, this like enigmatic figure, but then also that crossing a line for people to do inexcusable and horrible things, you know, to use that fanaticism as a weapon. It's really thought-provoking stuff. And of course it's one of the probably the most beautiful shows on TV. They shoot like on the actual location, so they are actually in St. Peter's Basilica, actually in Venice for a lot of this stuff. It's pretty amazing, like the setting up is. So
yeah,
some really great moments
for sure. You know, and having like the Lenny's whole MO about fanaticism, having that come back and kind of be the focus of his reintroduction into the story was really great, because that harkens back to the young pope and kind of the big revelation of the young pope. The young pope is actually this super radical conservative. Like it was an amazing flip at the time, and seeing them still play it out now, I think worked awesomely. And of course, you know, Sylvia Orlando is awesome as Voyella. Voyella once again is a character that like you love or despise depending on what's happening. And a big part of that's Orlando's, I think, performance in terms of how he plays off people and modulates his voice and whatever it might be. But another strong season for that character as well. So yeah, I mean, do you think we get another one? Like there was a long wait between these seasons. Jude Law was an EP this time around, so maybe he helped him. And if Paolo Sorrentino wants to do it again, you know, because Paolo, he writes, directs everything. He's totally in control of this, like he is with all his movies. So I'd be curious to see if they take another direction. You know, Diane Keaton was just in the first one. We assume Malkovich would not return for the third one. So maybe they try it again. I don't know. I'd say it probably doesn't happen, but I'd certainly welcome it, just because it as you said, it's just unlike anything else.
I mean, the thing about I think the reason I don't believe there will be another one, I guess, is Law seems to be the driving force of this, and it feels like it's a pretty clear ending that he's dead at the end of this.
Right.
You know, that exuberance as Pope and how much he gives of himself kind of led to him having to like make this ultimate sacrifice, and Voyello ends up being the Pope, and feels like a true return to form for like the politics and kind of what they're trying to drive at as like a criticism of the Catholic Church. They would go from these two very thoughtful men to this very like standard kind of Pope. And he even frames himself as that when he's selling himself. He's like, we've had these two radical ones, now we need that right down the middle, the one you can predict. I don't think this show works without Law, because even the scenes when he wasn't really present in the show, when he would show up and you'd kind of see him like spectating as this like ethereal being or this like spirit almost kind of witnessing Brannick, or I'm forgetting the girl's name who went and was like top, like basically prostituting herself out to those.
Esther.
Yes, Esther. Thank you. I always found that to be way more captivating than most of the stuff that was going on. So I think without Law, unless he's playing kind of like that overall like spectral presence, I don't think this show really works. So, and I think they probably all want to move on to more things. I imagine part of why Law was only in half the season was probably he's been doing a lot of movies. I mean, he was Dumbledore. He's just been he's been in demand, so I can't imagine he wants to keep doing the same role. But maybe we'll see. I'd love to have him back.
Yeah, man. So I'm hoping with this extended shutdown for a lot of things, people give this show time. Heck, watch The Young Pope if you haven't too. You know, I mean, it's it's rewarding to watch because just how unique it is, both visually and stylistically. And as you said, there's such a central, strong performance from Law that I just found it really satisfying once again. So big fan.
Totally agree. Dave, did you find Westworld Season 3's premiere as satisfying as you did The New Pope?
This show sucks.
Well, okay, so we are known Westworld haters. So they're really like rebooting this season, right? And
which I respect.
Yes, I totally agree, because I think our main criticisms are the stakes of this show seem incredibly low for how high concept.
I would just like to know what they are. Right. I don't even care care what the stakes are. I just like to understand exactly what they are.
Right, and I guess maybe I guess this premiere sets that up a little bit more. They bring in a lot of new people to this. We don't even see some of the characters from last season I think we expected to see in this premiere, like Tandy Newton. And I'm trying to remember, because I don't even remember a lot of what happened in season 2. I think I wiped it from my memory, but Tandy Newton is conspicuously absent. It's a lot of following Dolores around as she's Terminator-esque in this, and it's like really like an action pilot, so to speak, or a reboot of a show. You have Aaron Paul as this like down on his luck, trying to like make ends meet, like hitman or like gun for hire kind of, or bank robber for hire, who's obviously dealing with like PTSD in some sense, and Kid Cudi is making this guest appearance as his like old war buddy. That's
right. Lena Waithe and Marshawn Lynch showed up. Palm Clementif was here. The Sons of Anarchy guy was here. Vincent Cassell, new character, wasn't even in this one. Yeah, a lot of new faces. Of course, Bernard, Jeffrey Wright, still here as well. But yeah, if I remember right, a lot of the other people like James Morrison, like a lot of those guys and Rodrigo, like they died technically for real, but they'll probably come back soon. Like, let's be real, all the actors re-upped for this season. That's no secret. Right. So they'll be back somehow. Who the fuck knows? Who cares? But I respect the reintroduction, I guess, of the show, and like again, changing the setting. We're outside the park, and I think it's really telling that when the season 3 trailer dropped, everyone was like excited as fuck for this, because I think that's almost a acknowledgement that the first 2 seasons of Westworld, even if you liked them, I don't think they lived up to the expectation of the potential of that, Red Dead Redemption, GTA TV show that people kind of thought we were getting. That being said, the show, once again, at least through this episode, is still playing everything super close to the vest, that you just don't really understand like what we're supposed to care about. And that was kind of my issue with season 2 in particular, because season 2 is like, you predicted some things, Jimmy Simpson and Ed Harris, you figured that out. Well, fuck you. We're going to make this really hard to predict now. You'll have to watch the whole season. That's bad storytelling. To use the Redditors to drive the way you make your twists. Noah and Lisa Joy, they said that this is going to be a more straightforward season. Some of the advanced reviewers don't necessarily agree with that, but obviously I'll still be watching because I'm curious. And I just would like to understand what the point is, which is frustrating. And get Tessa Thompson the fuck off this show. It's a waste of her time.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson came in for one scene in this premiere, and she's fine. I didn't really find. I mean, I thought the action scenes were pretty good, but I didn't really understand why I was caring about this or what I was watching. And I agree.
Nice to see you.
I know, right? I guess I'm kind of just left confused still, and I feel like that's the way I feel for a lot of the time when I watch Westworld. And I kind of want to stop feeling that way when I watch this show.
Yeah.
I guess I also, so when I think back to like Westworld season 1, I think a lot of it was like, it's a very intriguing concept, maybe not executed fully, but like the idea of like what makes us human, and when you have these like sentient beings or these sentient robots, like how do you really, like, where's the line, and what does it say about humanity? And I don't think they ever really like drove that home very well. I guess they try to do that with Ed Harris's character the most, and especially like flashing back to Jimmy Simpson and like the evolution of that character is fascinating. But there's still something missing to me, where I think I've never really gotten Dolores's character or really cared.
No, they never commit to making her just a villain. I thought that was a missed opportunity last season. Make Dolores the actual bad person when she like breaks, but they won't do that. She's still the hero. So maybe Aaron Paul brings a new dynamic with them connecting. Certainly should be a new dynamic. Hopefully that changes the focus. But yeah, I mean, as you're saying, like think of episode season 2, like Kitsuya, the Riddle of the Sphinx episode. I forget what it's called. When they the Peter Mulan episode as well. When they focus on, like you said, the humanity and like the more existential things that are so right there on the surface, right there to be explored, it's much more compelling because again, this is a show with an unlimited budget and an amazing cast, and that's great. The problem is that the show doesn't seem to actually care about that as much. They're more concerned about this really meandering, again, hard to grasp plot. Remember all the platitudes Anthony Hopkins would share with us as Ford, right? And like, none of that landed.
No.
And that the Kitsuya episode almost was as close to the show gets to like a more procedural bottle episode. And I'm not saying you need to like deconstruct your narrative, but I just wish the narrative was more concerned about, I think, the things that people find interesting. Because right now the characters are hard to invest in because we just don't really understand what they want or why it matters. So the general, this aura of confusion still is with the show, at least through the season 3 premiere. So it's ultimately, I just find it frustrating because this is HBO's now. This is their prestige drama. This is their go-to thing. Thrones is gone. Veep is gone. This is their big thing, and I just want it to be better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I want to see them really shift to focus on other characters. The Dolores Bernard dynamic, and I guess they're not really a dynamic, but them as like the two central figures hasn't gripped me. But I do think Tandy Newton is a very interesting character, and Tessa Thompson, completely underutilized, and maybe flesh that character out a bit. I don't know. They introduced a lot of new people, so maybe Aaron Paul can inject some life. And I did think Aaron Paul was good. It's
Yeah.
hard for me to look at him and not see Jesse. It's just kind of like one of those roles, I think, where he's so synonymous with the
It's
character.
like
But
futuristic Jesse almost, still down on his luck,
true,
still food to
wearing those
mouth,
jackets.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
that's cool. And if this season's just more of like we're in a sci-fi future setting, just doing shit, I think it'll at least be entertaining. I just again would just like to grasp the narrative better.
yeah, I feel like maybe a direction they could take it if they do kind of keep Bernard and Dolores as like the two central characters, is just kind of like Bernard having to stop Dolores, who's like this like Terminator like character at this point, as we saw, and like Bernard having to like accept his like lack of humanity. Like you kind of saw him beat the hell out of those guys, and them facing off could be really interesting, especially a different role for Jeffrey Wright, who's usually this like sly kind of like understated performer. Seeing him kind of play up might be really interesting, but we'll see. I think this is probably there's some interesting elements. I'm a little bit more intrigued than usual. So
Sure.
maybe some positives for Westworld. Dave, I saw you tweeting about it. Did you get any hate on that tweet saying it still sucks?
Yes, I did. One person said, hold on, okay, dummy.
There you go. Okay.
And then friend of the show, Kai, said, why are you lying still, Dave? So I got ratio, one like, two replies.
Jeez. Doing some big numbers. Dave, what should the people be watching, listening to for next week? Obviously not going to the movies.
No, we expect that AMC will shut down. You can just throw out the movie calendar. We'll see what else gets released on VOD, if anything brand new does. Currently scheduled, though, is The Banker for Apple TV Plus. So that probably is going to get more attention now than it previously would have. So I actually find that interesting. So we'll see. Again, people still need to have access to Apple TV Plus to watch that. The Weeknd is dropping After Hours, his new album. That's still on as far as we know. That's exciting. That's a big thing for sure.
I've liked everything I've heard from it. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
so
and definitely a bit of a new direction for him, for Abel. So that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. But then time of recording is Monday, so you'll already have these premieres out. But HBO's kicking off The Plot Against America, 6-episode miniseries from David Simon, which feels incredibly prescient from trailer. So that's exciting. And also, My Brilliant Friend season 2 is premiering on HBO. That's the adaptation of the Elena Ferrante novel, the Italian coming of age story. I really like season 1, so I'm interested to see how that goes as well. Yeah, that's what we got right now, man. So, a lot of TV still in progress. Saul, Briar Patch, Devs. So, I think still plenty to watch. So, we'll see if any other movies pop up on VOD. But otherwise, we'll be finding ways to fill the time. Don't worry about that.
We will fill the time indeed. And if you want to fill your time, hit that subscribe button on youtube.com/nostalgiapod, and also go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to consume the podcast any way you want at nostalgiapod on Twitter. And again, follow our Best of 2020 on Spotify, Nostalgia Best of 2020. See you next week. Stay safe out there.